Okay, we have David Jackson, one of the most important figures in progressive rock music, uh, amazing saxophone player. David, it's an honor to talk to you today. It really is.
Oh, lovely to meet you, Dennis. I've seen your some of your interviews. They're really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've done over 100 of them already, but you're one of the special ones for sure. So maybe we could go back to the early days when how you got interested in playing saxophone and flute, even before Van der Graaf.
Oh, well, way back, um, when I was about 5, my brother was 10, and
Hmm.
he used to make wooden flutes at school, and he used to make them bamboo. They were bamboo with a cork of
Oh,
bamboo,
okay.
and I was really fascinated by them because the sound was so beautiful. I've got something similar here.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Let's see it.
Something like that.
Okay.
But this one is actually a transverse flute.
Oh, let's hear that.
But this was a straight flute, okay?
Right.
And if it wasn't a very good one, he said, "You can have it." So I used
Hmm.
to play them all the time, and he taught me how to play. There are 6 holes,
Right.
and when they're all up, that's 7 notes. You put them down again and blow harder, and you've got an octave, and off you go.
Nice.
So you've got 2 octaves. So um, I I started playing all my favorite little tune nursery rhymes and things,
Hmm.
and I just loved the sound. I used to go and find special places in my house where
Hmm.
it sounded really nice, like in the bathroom or in
Right.
the hall. The hall sounded nice. There was a lovely place I used to do where the sun came in, and I used to love playing there because when I moved my fingers, the dust all moved around, and it was
Ah,
awesome.
that's funny. Now,
And
did you grow up in the
uh,
countryside of England, or
yeah,
like a
yeah. Well,
small?
when I was in my childhood, up to about 7 or 8, it was villages. We lived
Hmm.
in villages, and then my parents sent me away to a boarding school,
Okay.
and it was in a town called Stamford in England, and
Hmm.
I stayed there for the next 11 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was a bit of a music scholar there. So the music
Wow.
that was already in me from childhood. I studied the piano and then the flute and so on. And the saxophone came around as another story how the saxophone came along. But
Oh, yeah. I'd like to hear that, especially
okay,
how did you develop the two saxophone
okay,
style?
well that came a bit later, but that came when
But
I was a
let's
teenager. So I went from flute. I studied the
right,
flute, exams and so on. And the piano I gave up because I had to concentrate on the flute.
right.
Because I was the flute player in the school, and the school was, uh, quite powerful. You are the flute player. Don't mess about. And they were
That's
very
funny.
much like that. And I used to win lots of prizes as well.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, well, I used to win prizes um, for in the because I was sitting quite good. Then they entered me into the senior school, and I stole all the prizes from the seniors. So it was
Wow. There you go. Wow.
Kill Jackson, Kill
Yeah.
Jackson. So that's how I started off, Kill Jackson. Um, but eventually, I thought when I was about 14 or 15, I got a bit fed up with the flute and wanted to play the clarinet. And my brother had a clarinet, and I said, "Give it to me." And he
Hmm.
said, "No, no." He had a big saxophone by then, and I thought, well, saxophones are a bit, I want to play the clarinet. And he said, "You can't have it." And then at one Christmas, he suddenly said, "Go and look in the cupboard. I've got something for you." And it was his old broken saxophone. So I got
Oh,
that when I was about 14 or 15,
wow.
and we fixed it together because it had a few problems. And I took it back to my boarding school and practiced every single day
Wow.
until
I hear it.
and
And
then I got banned. The headmaster said that your saxophone playing, you're playing all the time, 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and it's everybody driving everybody mad. The saxophone must go. You are the flute scholar. You can't play the saxophone.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. So in the end, my parents said, "Okay, the saxophone and the boy are together now. Take the saxophone away. You take the boy. Oh no, no, no. We need him. He's a scholar. He's a scholar." So
Hmm.
I kept the saxophone, but I didn't stop practicing because if you're a boarder, you've got very, very little to do at the weekends, and
Hmm.
every
I'm
night you've
sure.
got work. All the other boys, all boys, were good at sport or very academic. But for me, it was just, I'm going to be a musician. That's it. But the most inspiring thing, I think, was Paul Desmond, Take Five. That was a big influence on me because
Oh, yeah, that's a great record. Right.
it was on the radio all the time. And I learned to play that. And then suddenly I heard about him. I saw him in the record shop in the town, a man, a black man with a funny hat and covered in saxophones. And I thought, I've got to have that. So we bought the
Hmm.
record. We used to club together, my friends and I bought records. And I got the Roland Kirk record, Russian Roland Kirk, and I learned how to play We Three Kings. And then by then I'd got an alto and a tenor, so I just tried to do it. I just
That's
stick.
amazing how you play that. I mean, it's really great.
There are a lot of problems, because um, um, and my respect for Russian Roland Kirk is immense because he managed to do it all when he was blind, and
Oh,
I
okay.
could see. And I could see exactly what the problems were. So eventually I got the saxophones altered. I changed the mouthpieces,
Oh, you
changed
did. Okay. Oh.
so that they were comfortable. And most important, I got a harness, something that made it was comfortable to
Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah.
if you don't have a harness,
Right.
you can't do it. So I had I had all the problems solved, and then I could practice doing that all day and all night. And there was so much repertoire, you see, things to learn. And
Hmm.
also, I was in demand for playing with other people. They wanted me to play different kinds of music. So, I had to learn how to do things and solve
Now, this
problems.
was, were you playing a lot of jazz at this time with other band members that you had,
Yeah,
or?
absolutely. So I studied classical music, obviously. On the
Right.
radio, we heard pop music, but the music that really grabbed me that were related to the saxophone, which was my thing when I was a teenager, was jazz. And the
Okay.
jazz music was evolving very fast. And, you had from Paul Desmond, but even when I was at school, because I was a flute player and a piccolo player, I didn't.
Oh.
They wouldn't let me play the saxophone in the band. That had to be because there wasn't any music for the saxophone. So
Hmm.
I played the piccolo in the band, and I used to improvise. And the first band I was in was a trad band, traditional,
Oh, okay.
dun, 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 really jolly stuff. And I
Right.
just improvised. And then we got into the blues, and then we got into um, rhythm and blues, and what else would we really
So,
like? Yeah, all the different styles. Every style came along, you had to learn it, and
yeah.
that was so fast, so fast.
What an education. I mean, you really had that back before you even became a professional musician in a big popular band. You had all that experience for different styles. That's what
Yes,
made you so great.
yeah, and a ridiculous amount of work.
Hmm.
This 10,000 hours thing. I probably did 10,000 hours before I left boarding school, and then when I went
Wow.
to university, I had 3 years in university, and the university period, so by then I'd done trad, I'd done uh, modern jazz, my brother was into bebop, so he was making me play bebop tunes and
Hmm.
banging my fingers with a ruler, and to get me to play. He was brilliant, mind you. He was
Oh, he was.
absolutely brilliant, my brother. And so he was inspiring, but and it was a bit competitive as well, but he went down the bebop dance band route, big band route. I went down jazz, blues, rock, but you know, Sergeant Pepper came out.
Oh yeah,
You know,
that was a breakthrough record.
absolute breakthrough
Everything
and
changed. Everything changed with that
completely.
record.
Yeah. So, you know, I was listening to Sonny Rollins and John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, and then my friends in the rooms around me were saying, "Forget that, man! It's the Beatles. It's the Beatles."
Mm.
So, but then there were people like John Mayall to listen to, Eric Clapton, you know, all
Oh
these great,
yeah.
that's American music. But I was in Scotland, so soul music was massive.
No, I didn't
American.
know that. Huh.
And one summer, 1967, the year Coltrane died, I spent 10 weeks on the Scottish Islands in a soul band, playing double horns, playing soul music.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
If you play all of these styles, you get quite good, you know.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure of that.
So it's like a complete education. And I don't think a lot of young people today would have that chance, that
No,
opportunity
I don't think so. No.
for
Not
meteoric changes in music. Every flipping few months, it was a new world, a new pop band, a new rock band, a new style, a new genre, and
mm,
people were playing, touring. You could see everybody, and
yeah.
yeah, it was a wonderful time, and I was blessed in a way by that.
Now, did you see Pink Floyd? Did you get to see them with
I never saw Pink Floyd, but what made my life really interesting when I was young was my friends, because
mm,
friends are everything. You know, you have your family, but you don't live with your family if you at boarding school or at university. You live.
right.
When I was at school, one of my friends was obsessed with the Beach Boys,
Oh,
so I had to learn the Beach Boys. When I was at university, one of my best friends was Pink Floyd, so I had Pink Floyd coming out my ears. I had
mm,
Beach because you used to spend time together and people were like disciples. You know, you've got to listen to this
right.
new album, and I would listen, but I wouldn't buy them all. I would buy my own records, you know, Jill Evans or whatever
You're
it was
right.
grabbing me at the time, you know, Jill
That's
Evans,
something.
Porgy Bess, or sketches from Skane, all sorts of weird things you'd hear about. Or the
Hmm.
radio was crucial, Dennis. You know, we were
Oh
always listening
yeah.
to
Back
radio.
then,
Yeah,
the
because it's
radio.
free. It's free.
Right. That's
It was
true.
free.
And you know, we didn't have there was no CDs back then, no internet, and you know, you had to either listen to vinyl or go out and listen to music or radio. That's it.
Yeah, the radio was, you know,
Yeah.
godsend, a godsend, free.
Yeah. So how did you meet the Van der Graaf group with Peter Hamill and that whole group? I just want to show quickly here.
Whoa.
One of I love this
Wait.
record. Absolutely
What?
love it. Actually, I love all of
Hydrogen,
them. This
hydrogen to helium. Okay, so I was at boarding school. On the last day of my boarding school, there was a party, and the party was with another boarding school. You
okay.
know, we were all what we call sixth formers, so we were really senior. We were, you know, we were had motor. I had a motorbike. I used to put the saxophone on the back of the motorbike, all that sort of stuff, whiz around. Somebody said, "Come to a party. All the all the good guys, all the musicians from all the different schools are going together." And on that last day of term, I met people, and that changed my life forever. Because
Wow.
one of the key guys was called Max, who ended up, he's a famous architect,
Mm.
but and etc. etc. But Max became a new friend, and he had his obsessions with music, and he had another friend from his school called Judge Smith. So
Oh yeah.
Max and Judge Smith knew each other. Well, they were at school together, and they discovered me at this party and said, "Oh, look, there's a good saxophone player. Let's get him." So I met them. We all fell in love with each other, and
Mm.
you know, the music we were making, everybody was complimentary. It all worked together. And then um, Max said, let's go and spend a week in this looking after these London kids. Because if we look after the London kids when they're asleep, we can play music. We used to do all
Right,
sorts
right.
of crazy things, you know. Anyway, those friendships, after I'd finished, so at that point, those friendships are holiday friendships now.
Right.
But most of the time I'm in Scotland University. But while I was there, I met very important bands and musicians, including the guys from the Average White Band. We were together. I was in a band with them. I was with all these different people.
Oh, okay.
When I finished university, I came to London to find to be with a girl, because at that point I thought, you know, actually girls are more important than music at this point.
Right.
So it didn't last long, I can tell you.
No, boy.
Last long. But once I was down in London, the people that I knew from Max and Judge said there was we're forming a band. So I went and formed a band with Judge called He
Mm,
Balob, and
okay.
Judge and Peter were in a band, had been in a band at Manchester University called the Graaf Generator. But that had
Okay.
been going strong, but they'd lost all their money through a bad manager who stole all the money and the equipment, and everything was gone.
Oh,
But
mm,
during that period, I met Peter Hamill, and he said, oh, I like your playing. So he heard my record that I made at Polydor. I
right.
did a record, He Balob. He said, I like your playing. He Balob's broken up. What are you doing? I said, and where are you going to live? I said, well, I've got nowhere to live
Mm,
because the band had a flat. I've got nothing to do. I've got no money, nothing. He said, come and share my flat, and
mm.
we'll see if we can work together. So I literally moved from one band to
Wow.
Peter Hamill,
Right.
and I lived with Peter Hamill for 6 months, and we wrote loads and loads of tunes together. And we even went and sat out on this pavement and tried to get some money. You know, we'd write a song and go and sit outside together on the road and in the street in London.
What an
And
experience. Wow.
but going back to the musicianship thing, because that's what you're interested in. That's
Of
hopefully
course.
people watching this are interested in
Yep.
music and musicianship.
Right.
It was, you know, the double horns had always been something that I wanted to do. But the moment I started working with Peter Hamill, the double horns, all those hours and hours and hours of practice playing very difficult Roland Kirk tunes and more simple soul parts and things. But suddenly we've got a whole new genre of songs that Peter Hamill's writing, and the double horns are a doddle.
Yes, I
It's so
agree.
easy. They're so easy. They're so natural. Literally, I hear him strums a song, and I'm going da 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 da.
Yeah.
Bah, you
Well,
know,
there was so many unusual breaks too. You would start, stop a song, and then all of a sudden go into something else. And you had the most incredible drummer, Guy Evans. It was just
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
fantastic drummer.
yeah, everybody was very, very unique. You know,
They
that was
were.
what, and on paper, it shouldn't work. You know, he was an organ scholar, you know, absolute master of the instrument,
Oh
feet,
yeah, I agree.
technique, blinding technique. Guy is a very, very unusual drummer, not like anybody else. He's
No,
not a straightforward
no,
drummer.
no. He's got very polyrhythmic player, and
Yeah,
and and very odd time signatures show up all of a sudden, and you're adding that touch over the music. You're adding this sax parts and flute. It really just was like a really fit together so well.
but it was instantaneous, Dennis. It wasn't like we were struggling. You know, there was stuff, music was coming all the time. Peter never stopped writing. He never stopped throwing ideas at us.
What a period! Wow.
It was. And of course you were also signed up to a company, so you had obligations. You know, you got to go and do another record, you got to do this. And you got a gig, and we were gigging and gigging and gigging. So
Hmm.
uh we were exploited. All those young bands were exploited. There's
No, I'm sure.
no question about it. We were exploited. But we made a living. We earned money. We had a hell of a good time.
I'm sure you did.
We toured. We went all over the place, all over England, all over Europe, and we became massive in Italy. And you know, suddenly
Italians love progressive music. They love, they love Genesis. I think that's where Genesis really became popular, was from Italy. I mean, they were playing stadiums as compared to little places I heard in Italy back in the early 70s.
well, we were. I mean, we were.
You too.
We were number one for 17 weeks in 1972. And
Was that Pawn Hearts? Was that the record that
it was Paul? Yeah,
I have it. There it is,
yeah,
right there.
that's it.
Amazing record. I have the inside. I have the actual early record here. I love this cover too. Paul Whitehead
Paul
is
Whitehead,
really
exactly,
extraordinary. I'm hoping to interview Paul. He wants to do an interview, so that's going to be great.
I would definitely take it up because I met him recently. Well, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. That's recent in my life. It's recent. I met him in Mexico, Mexicali.
Oh, okay. Now, before we move on, I want to hear about the Six Bob tour.
Good.
How was that?
Well, we were with a record company called Charisma Records.
Okay.
But Charisma Records was also a management company, which it seemed absolutely normal. We didn't know anything else. But in a way, it's not the best arrangement because the management, you need a manager to deal with a record company.
Right.
But the record company was our manager. So things happened and we were just told what to do. And they had a good idea. The manager, who was our record company team, with all the other bands, you know, Genesis, Linda's Farm,
Right.
we've been Jackson Heights, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all the Audience,
Progressive
we've been
dance.
touring for years with all these guys, right? Non-stop,
Wow.
non-stop touring with different combinations. But suddenly, Tony, a big promoter called Tony Smith, talked to Tony Stratton Smith and said,
okay, I've heard of him. Yep.
Guys, the way to make money is to sell records and to sell merchandise. Okay, you have got to get people into gigs, right, to sell things. And we are going to make a massive tour of all the cities in UK and charge everybody 6 bob. Now, 6 bob is 30 pence.
Okay.
Right. In terms of dollars, you know, we are talking about 20 cents. I don't know.
Got a deal. Oh my gosh.
Basically, you are getting 3 top bands for nothing.
That is
so
amazing.
Everybody goes in there and says, I'm having this record, I'm having that record, I'm having that t-shirt, I'm having that book. And they all went out loaded with stuff.
That's something.
And who made the money? Not us. We didn't make any money. But the record company started to get their money back for all the vinyl, the things they're making. All we got was our £13.06, which is, again, you know, it's probably, I don't know, $17. No, sorry, it's more. Dollars are worth more, but and it's about I don't know, about $16, $17 a week.
Oh my gosh. That's something. Wow.
It didn't make any difference to us. If we were number one in Italy, we still are.
That's something.
I think we run £15 a week then, which is maybe $18, $20. I don't know.
Were the audiences good? Was it crowded, the shows?
Every single one was full. The 6 bob tour, they were all full. and it was a great time because we all traveled together on a bus, and in the past we'd all traveled in a van
I
with all
see.
the you know, and you were all huddled up in the back,
Uh,
shivering cold in a horrible old van, doing all that. But suddenly we were on a real big bus, and we had roadies, people to do all
that's
the equipment. We didn't have to touch a thing.
that's better yet. Oh, that's when you know you've made it somehow, when you don't have to worry about all that stuff.
And the other thing that was special about the Six Bob tour, though, was the fact that we started to, because we were traveling all day together, staying in the same hotels, we became friends. So, and then in the case of Peter Hamill, he did a solo record called Fool's Mate, and he used a lot of the other people, um, and so on. So, um, oh, what am I thinking about? So we started to play with each other.
Hmm.
Van der Graaf were top of the bill. We were the biggest band at that time.
Okay.
Genesis were very coming up,
Okay.
but we were the top of the bill. So, but they used to come and do a song with us at the end, and we used to do a song with Genesis. We used to do a song with Lindisfarne,
Oh,
so
that
that
must have been great. Oh,
well, it wasn't like all, but the equipment wasn't so complex in those days.
hmm.
There was something called back line. Now
Hmm.
nobody does that anymore. Everybody wants in-ear everything.
Right. That's true.
It's horrible. I mean, I personally don't like the way modern concerts are done. It's not my style. My style is backline. But for me, it was an absolute revelation. Something called a monitor. A monitor.
Right.
It's a speaker in front of you on the floor. That
Yeah, that's it.
because I was backline saxophone, electric sax, an organ. There was a guitar, sometimes the electric guitar, the electric piano, all backline. The only thing in the PA was the voice.
Wow.
You
Okay.
couldn't have the voice in the monitor because there wasn't a monitor. So you had the PA turned in, and that's so with a simple setup, it's quite easy for another band to somebody to guest with another band.
Yeah. Well, Peter had the most unique voice I've ever heard. Once you heard it, either, you become a big fan all of a sudden, or some people take some time to realize how unique his voice was, and your sound, the whole band, but his voice was really unique.
His voice was beautiful. I mean, it was
It
absolutely beautiful.
was.
It was beautiful, and I had the pleasure of, you know, of, of hearing him writing songs and delivering songs in a little bed sitting room
Oh my
in
gosh.
North London. Here I've just written a song called Refugees or whatever it
Oh,
was.
great songs.
And oh well, I think I could do a nice little flute part to that. What's the chords? So he played the chords, and I've written it. It's all done, as quick as pie. It's not fiddling around with bits of paper and play it again. It's just I've got it. I've got it.
Right.
That's the way we were. But if you think about
Man.
all the experience and all the practicing and all the different styles of music I played, but the thing is with Van der Graaf, it wasn't this anybody else's style.
That's
So you're
right.
four. You've got a drummer that doesn't play like anybody else, an
Nope.
organist doesn't play like anybody else. Peter Hamill is completely unique. He's not
Oh
even
yeah.
had a music lesson yet. He's taught
No, you
himself to,
self-taught?
oh,
Wow.
completely, yeah. And
That's amazing.
um he um when you watched him, I mean, I learned to play the guitar because I thought it would be quite useful for playing with people. So, oh, I know what key you're in. I know what chords. I know all the chord shapes. So I know when I'm playing double horns, oh, it's an E, it's a D, it's an E, it's a G, it's a C. I know all that. So obviously it makes me a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But um, but when it came to the piano, I studied the piano, so I knew the correct fingering. And but Peter didn't, and so he had funny ways of making chords that weren't right. Weren't and not. That's not how you learn to play the piano. But the point is, he ended up playing it different.
That's what made
So
him so unique. You were
yeah,
right.
exactly. because he didn't have the restrictions of being trained. And I
That's
think
it. That's
we
it.
chatted
That's a big
before we
deal.
started about my
There.
daughter. My
Oh yeah,
daughter,
we got to talk about that for sure.
she's completely untrained. I
She's
tried.
untrained too?
Oh,
Wow.
I
She's
tried to
untrained?
train her. I
That's
tried to train
something.
her, but she refused. She
Oh,
refused to have a lesson. You know, she fought me off. Go away, Dad. Go
well,
away.
I just want to mention before we move on, that is David's daughter who's got this fantastic new record out that we're going to talk about in a minute. I just listened to it yesterday and it is really magical. There she is.
Two peas in a pod.
Oh, I mean, you want to talk about it now, the record, or you
Well,
want
I'm
to?
happy to talk about it because
Sure.
it's
Let's talk about it. So it's
I'm
brand new
happy
out
I'm
and
happy
it's
to talk
called
about the past, but this is carry on.
I just
It's
want to mention one quick thing. This is the first record I got from you guys, God Bluff.
yeah.
And it really just turned my mind. I mean, it was so unique. And it's like, wow, what is this? That's what really. And after that, I just wanted to get every record by Peter Hamill, every record by Van der Graaf, and anybody related to that music for somehow. And I'm sure there's fans out there who feel the same way. Because I went to a Van der Graaf show a few years back, the three-piece band,
Right.
Guy, Peter, and
You.
you. And I couldn't believe how many fans were there that were just devoted. You have such a big following. That's all I'm going to end it with that as far as Van der Graaf.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And but it wasn't a band that um it wasn't a natural band in a way because the people who were in the band we liked each other. I mean, we were great
Yeah.
friends, but we came together to really mostly to play the music of what Peter wanted, but Peter also kept on having his own direction, and you know, when things got difficult, he just went off and did his own thing, and uh, so it was a bit awkward. It's not an easy band to be in, Van der Graaf, but
I
it was
imagine not.
very,
No, that's
very,
got to be
very
difficult.
productive. Very productive, very original. And, I have to thank my lucky stars that I met the people I did on that barge that led to meeting Peter and the Van der Graaf people, because I'm still, Dory's got a bigger
Well,
audience because of who she is.
well,
And
well, yeah. Well, they were lucky to find you, David. That's my opinion too. No, really, they were lucky to find you. So let's move on to your daughter here. Stupid Says Run. I got a chance to listen to it. I mean, it's a lot of, I hear like folk, Renaissance music in it, even the band Renaissance a little bit. And the harmonies are fantastic. You're on it. There's other musicians on it. Maybe you could talk about it a little bit.
well, I think I was approached almost 10 years ago by some guys who were working in a studio in London, and south of London, east of London is called Kent, a
Okay.
part of England called Kent. These were Kent guys, and they were two old school friends. Were getting to the point in their lives, where the end of their, not at the end, but towards the end of their working lives, they always had a wish to do some music. They got together and started writing great music. Now, these guys were a bass player and a brilliant lyricist called Nick Jefferson, and his old friend Al Nicholson, a guitarist. So you got a bass player and a lyricist, a guitarist, and a keyboard player. Was an old friend who was an absolutely brilliant engineer. And those three guys,
Hmm.
oh, they're here. Sorry, I knew they're somewhere. They formed with Al, the guitarist. So you've
Oh,
got
okay.
the
Got it. I
keyboard
see that. Right.
and producer Dory, and the bass player and lyricist. Now they decided to create a band called Capricus Constant, and the man in the studio, Mike,
Right.
was listening to the music, and he said, "Look, I sometimes Dory comes here and works in my studio. Her dad is a sax and flute player from Van der Graaf." Oh, him! They both obviously knew Van der Graaf.
Of course. Right.
So Mike asked Dory to get in touch with me. So I got a message saying, would I listen to some music by these boys called Capricus Constant? And I absolutely fell in love with it. I literally fell in love with it. So I started working on it. But it was like where they started work was where Pawn Hearts left off.
Oh, wow. That's
Really
something.
big 20-minute pieces,
Right.
complex pieces, very complex pieces of music, but fascinating, held together with a stunning story and narrative. Okay, so a bit like I was absolutely captivated by Peter's writing and all the big epic songs he wrote, I was captivated immediately by Capricus. So I worked away, and I did a track, and they loved what I did. They said, do another, do another, do another. Anyway, one day Dory came into my studio and said, did you do anything with those Kent boys? I said, yeah, I did. So would you like to listen to it? Because I'm a bit stuck. So I was on working on a piece of music about Houdini. Houdini is a very famous American escape artist.
Okay.
You know him? Houdini?
Right.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
well,
I
he's
think I've heard.
Houdini. Anyway,
Of course.
he was a cultist, and he
Right.
reckoned that he would always be, even if he was dead, he would come back in 10 years because he always came back. Do you
Right.
understand? So
Yeah.
even
His
if he
ghost came
died,
back. Yeah.
he would always come back. So I'm working on this passage about Houdini coming back. And I said, I don't know what to do, Dos. She said, well, are you still working with those guys? I said, yeah. I said, she said, this would work. And she sang this melody in my ear and then went out the room, out my studio, this very room I'm in.
Right.
And I ran after her and dragged her back into the room. I said, you sing that on this mic now.
There you go.
So she literally sang, not proper, not with headphones or anything. She just sang the melody that she heard, right? So, and then she went. So I then orchestrated that whole section into about Houdini trying to read,
Right.
oh God, I forget what the lines are, but anyway, it's really evocative passage. Anyway, I orchestrated it and did it and sent it off. And then I got a message from Dory, said, they want me to go to the studio and sing for them. I said, what? The Capricus guys, you could, well, you should. You sang that bit. You should. So she went down there, and I said, eventually the record came out, and I went, listened through and got to the past, about 15, 16
Right.
minutes. It's epic. There's this passage, and blood me heck, I put a solo across it because I thought, well, there's the melody, they may not like the melody. I'll
Right.
put a solo across it anyway. But they bought the melody, but they replaced all of my parts and harmonies with Dory.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, I mean, I was literally shaking with emotion because
Yeah.
that
Can
was what Dory
imagine.
sang. Off, what we say off the cuff is an English expression, means off the cuff. Just, wow, just
That's
do
a
it.
gift to be able to do multi-harmonies like that. Not everybody can do that.
No, they can't. But she didn't do the harmonies at that point because
Oh,
I
she
did.
didn't. Okay.
I
Oh,
did.
okay.
But she replaced them even better. So it was a really great passage. And they said, well, Dory, would you join the band? And when some gigs came up, Dory was in the band. There was a young boy singer, a very young guy called Bill Jefferson, the nephew of Nick, the
Okay.
bass player, his young nephew. So you've got a young boy, very young lad, folk singer, Dory, very experienced, and then right through the spectrum to somebody who's in his 70s, you know, with a bit of experience, all working together. There was about 8 of us then in Capricas, and we played some amazing songs, amazing.
Wow.
And we did 3 albums, some EPs, and those and stuff over the next 10 years. And Nick and Mike decided that they didn't want to do any more Capricas records because they really had literally climbed to the top of the mountain. The last epic we did together was called The Murder Ward. That it was about the Eiger, the north face of the Eiger,
Right.
and the whole album was about the number of people who climbed it and died on the thing. It's a very clever piece of work.
Mm.
But they said, we don't do any more Capricas. Let's have a crack at Dory. So they started writing stuff with Dory. Dory went down to the studio. They started building all these tracks. They sent some to me. They got a really, really good folk bloke because it started off very folky.
It did. Yep.
There's a lot of very folky tracks with a whistle player and a violinist, Toby, whatever his name. He's could look at his name. He's very, very good.
It's
All
almost
respect.
like Renaissance music too, like kind of has that Renaissance feel, folk, progressive parts. It's really quite a record.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is a lovely record, and I got to respect this musician because I don't know him. I haven't met him, but I'm having to learn his stuff. I've got to learn all his parts because he played some lovely parts. Toby Shear, I think it's Shear, Shaer, Toby Shear. He's a young guy apparently. He plays a lot of really good people, but he was a session musician. They obviously got him in, you know. The young session musicians are bloody brilliant. They are.
Is she going to play live shows now coming
Yeah,
up?
we plan to play live. That is
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, most of the tracks are down to 3 or 4 or 5 people. That's
Okay.
it. So it's achievable as a small band. I can play Toby's parts if he isn't available. You know, you need a guitarist, you need keyboards, you need sax and flutes
Of
and
course.
whistle, Dory, and you need bass. Drums are not so dominant on this record. They're there, but
No, right.
Dory can easily play a cajon or something like that. She's also fantastic percussionist, Dory is. So, you know,
Oh,
with the foot,
really? Oh, okay.
oh yeah, with the foot pedal, I don't think we need to make the band too big to do lots of really nice gigs. We're playing at a big folk festival over on the North Sea, I think
Oh,
called
very nice.
Folk on the Pier. We're playing on a ship in London, an old ship. We've got a gig up in the Midlands, somewhere in Wales. We've got a few gigs coming together, so we're going to have to rehearse, and we're going to have to learn how to play live. But
Now, are you going to play saxophone on this tour plus flute, or what instruments you're going to be playing?
well, it's very possible that we might play some of the Capricars repertoire.
Okay.
There's also a possibility we might play. Dory did an album in the 2008, I think, called The Courting Ground, with a guy called Francis Dunnery from It Bites, American guy. Well, he's Geordie, but he's
Right.
he's a Cumbrian man. He's from Cumbria, but he lives in America. And Dory did an album with him called The Courting Ground. So we might have some Courting Ground, some Stupid, some Capricas. If it's Capricas, then I play a lot of double horns in that. So
Okay.
I take the
Wow, that's
horn,
great.
but also I've got a lot of very, very good effects. So I think with a smaller band, I can do effects. You know, I can play bass parts even if necessary. And so every song will be a special arrangement to suit. I can't play violin though.
Well,
But
you're adding that extra touch to the band, you know, that special playing that you have. Talk about your duet record, the record you just did.
oh
Um,
yeah,
let's hear
certainly.
about that.
Very happy to. The next promotion is a
Sure.
really.
Keep promoting. We love it.
It's called Stupid
Keep
says
your lane.
keep your lane. Keep your lane.
I heard some of this. It's really complex.
It
and a
is
lot of good.
complex, and
It, it
it's a really good buy. I
yep.
mean, obviously, I want to try and make people buy things. Oh, I can't. The cover's gone. It's
Now,
got a little poster and everything in it. I don't know where it's gone. Somebody's stolen the poster.
now,
It's
how
not.
did you? This woman from the Netherlands? Uh,
No, it's not a woman. And the name
oh, it's a
Renee
man. Okay,
is, optional. Renee. This
Renee.
Ren
Okay,
is the man. And
got
when you
it.
see, it's no mistake. Dutch men can be 8 foot.
Ah, it's funny.
He, he's close to 7 foot, big guy.
Wow.
Um, but I met him when way back when the band were touring in Holland, and we became friendly. And I forget the year, but one year he said, "Would I come and do some?" So I was doing solo gigs at the time because I was desperate to play. I'd left teaching full time and started doing solo gigs. And Rene said, "Why don't you come and do a show?" And I said, "Okay, Rene, but you're a brilliant." I knew he was a drummer at the time because he was a punk drummer. I said, "Can't we do something together? Because I'd much rather
Mm,
join people than be on my own."
right.
And I sent him over some music. He said, "Yeah, we'll do it." And we did several concerts in Utrecht, and
Mm,
we did a live album called Batteries Included. Batteries is, Duracell have rabbits, don't they, with batteries included, and
okay.
last
Uh,
forever. So it's quite a clever joke.
It
Batteries
is. I like
included.
that.
Another word
Now,
for drums is batteries. So batteries included. I realized that he was absolutely brilliant. He
mm.
was very funny and a really nice guy.
Oh,
And
it's great music.
the other thing is about Rene, um, in order to make a living and survive and raise his children, he became a bus driver, coach driver. Okay. And in order to raise my children when things were bad, I became a truck driver. So one thing we had in common was big vehicles and no
Oh,
fear. No,
that's funny.
absolutely no fear. I could drive a 40-ton truck, no trouble. Well, not anymore, but
Right.
I used to because the laws changed about my eyesight. I can't see.
There you
My
go.
eyes aren't good
Funny.
enough now, but they were. Anyway,
Mm,
he was a driver, I'm a driver. So during lockdown, it's a lockdown thing,
right.
during lockdown, um, well, nothing happening. Nothing is
Right.
happening. You just go for
That's
2 or 3
true.
hour walks. That's all you can do
That's it. You're right.
for
That,
months on end. And I suddenly realized, I got no musical interaction with everybody. I've got to interact with my library, my reservoirs, all my hard drives.
right,
What can I
right.
find? And I was just finding things. And Renee said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm dragging finding things." He said, "Well, I've been writing lots of really nice things." He said, "Well, can I hear? And can I hear?" So we were swapping stuff,
Mm,
backwards and forwards. Thank God for the internet, Wi-Fi.
yes.
And we were even talking to each other like you and I are
Right,
now,
right, right. Mm.
which is a wonderful experience. I mean, it's, I
It's a
used to
great record. I love it. It's got a lot of good vibe, and it's a lot of sounds coming at you. Kind of
well,
like little. It's got some world music almost feel to it.
the thing about it is it's repertoire, you
Yep.
know, right from the very start of this conversation, Dennis, we've been talking about repertoire. Without
Mm,
repertoire, without the music that we're going to play, we're nothing. We're
right.
nothing. You either
I
have
agree.
great repertoire that you learn or stuff you make. And if you're lucky enough to make repertoire and people like it, eureka. So,
Yes, agree.
but when you're working sort of almost like at the coal face, here's this bit of, you know, so I did lots and lots of, in the last 20 years, I've done hundreds of records for other people. I mean,
Wow. I
my
didn't
best
realize
time.
that.
Oh no, I never stop. I mean, we could talk about what I'm working on 3 things at the same time now. I've got stuff on my desktop behind you
Oh my
that I'm,
gosh.
that I'm working on now. Really interesting projects, 3 of them at the same time. So I went back and found lots of things that were incomplete, never used, or used by somebody, and they just used the solo or they used this. But inside there was a wonderful idea. So some of my collaborators on Keep Your Lane, apart from Rene,
Right.
drummer, but he's also a brilliant producer, and you
Hmm.
can't do anything recording wise without somebody who has a good pair of
E- Yes,
ears.
ears,
So
right.
I have to say that because I've got hearing now, look, and
Oh, I,
I absolutely, I should have bought shares in hearing aids because they are amazing.
hmm.
I'm hearing music that I made 40, 50 years ago for the first time.
Wow.
Yes, because I never heard. What? Oh, bloody hell. That hi-hat was amazing. Hi-hats went about 20 years ago. You know, these things go because the top goes down and you end up
I
in the
understand.
world of mud.
It's true.
Mud.
I agree. Well,
And
I have that now because I was a drummer starting out and I wore a lot of
yeah,
headphones.
I never
So
asked.
your hearing just gets like the top end, you lose it. You lose part of it. So
Well, Dennis, I would try if
what kind are
get
they?
but what
What brand are they? What kind of hearing aids are there? Is there a certain
well
brand?
they well they belong to a the company that make them is a Danish. They're Danish.
Okay.
They're a very big manufacturer and they sell it to other brands.
Got it. Understand.
But it's top of the range,
That's
and
what you need. You need that.
I it is. I mean, it costs as well as much as this. It costs this much.
Yeah, but for you though, it's worth it. It's worth every penny. What
Well,
would you could be a sponsor for their hearing aids. I mean, I'm kidding.
I'm not.
You,
I'm not important.
you you know, David, we could keep talking and talking. I want to briefly commend you on what you've done with disabled people with the music, this Soundbeam. I don't know. Before we end, maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
Just trying to get out the way. Can you
That's all
see
right. I see you. Oh, look at
there?
that. Oh, yeah. I love
I've
those
got.
pictures
Oh, with the pictures.
on the
Yeah.
wall. Those are great.
Oh, there's some good stuff in here.
The
Yeah,
legendary Van de Graaff picture there.
there is.
You
Yeah,
have
but
so many
behind me,
you have so many fans out there. I'm telling you, you really
well,
do.
this system here,
Look at that.
this, yeah, this is it's 16 units. That means there are 16 bits spaces full of vintage technology,
Hmm.
and there's a MIDI controller in there that it can can play 12 different MIDI instruments at the same time.
Holy smoke.
And if you understand MIDI, I understand MIDI.
Hmm.
MIDI is a labyrinth of 128 degrees.
Right.
So you know, every single aspect of music can be a MIDI value. So if you're prepared to spend thousands and thousands of hours with the Soundbeam system, this one that I have is called
Hmm.
Soundbeam 2, you can virtually do anything. But what makes it
Imagine.
is you can give it to other people. So those 12 different separate instruments can be given to 12 people,
Hmm.
or one person to control the lot, or in any mathematical combination of what you like. But I started getting, because I was good at it, but because I was well known, and because I was a trained teacher with 2 degrees, etc., and having to earn money, I became a teacher. and then a music and disability specialist.
Mm.
I'm 70, nearly 78. So you're talking about uh, 50
Wow.
years, 60. Come on,
That's
I was
amazing. That is a
17. We're talking 60 years of work here, of
that is
musical work. So, you know, I've done so much, and I'm so conscious of the fact that we say I'm over the hill.
no, no, not far from it. Not your
I
playing,
know.
not your playing. That's not over the hill. That's
It's
far
not
from
what it
David.
was.
You've kept consistent in your, how you play the instruments. I don't think that has changed. I have not heard on Dory's record and listening to you on there. It's like you're back in 20, 30 years old again. It's never changed. That's
Well,
what
on
my
Dory's
opinion
record,
anyway.
it's there are only a couple of tracks with saxes on. They didn't what they wanted it to be more light, you know, more light, and but I think live I will use the horns a bit more. Um,
Right.
but I am still playing, and while I'm here, I just thought I ought to mention, you know, I mentioned Italy before, and I
Sure.
work with a lot of Italian bands. I've got a very exciting gig coming in March with an Italian band who I greatly admire. I've done the last 3, 4 records with them, and they're called the Ellesmere.
Okay.
And
Never heard of
they've
them.
won. Ellesmere have done very well in British prog because they've won an award, I think, with a British prog program
Oh,
called
okay.
Progzilla. Progzilla. They've won some kind of thing with Progzilla, and me working with them may well have helped raise awareness of them in this country. But to get an Italian band, not a high status band, it's not like Banco or PFM
Right,
or
right.
I've been playing with Osanna since 2008.
Oh,
Um,
hmm.
I mean, I've done gigs all over the place, Mexico, America, um, Brazil. I mean, ridiculous. Japan with these guys, but
Hmm.
never England. But suddenly, a British festival saying, "Let's have an Italian band," and they got the gig without me. And then I said, "Hey, you're playing in England. You didn't tell me." He said, "Well, there's no money." I'm coming. I said, "I'm
Oh, that's great.
so."
Well, even playing for free, you love to play music. So at this point, it's it's a gig where people are coming to see progressive music, and it's important.
Well, it is important. They're a very good band, and they've got a really, really great
Hmm.
writer. It's down to the writing, you know. It's down to the writing. If you guys, you know, if you write well, you're going to attract good players. And if you've got good music and good players, you want to be there. And just in case
Absolutely.
anybody says, I am getting a little fee, so I'm not doing it for nothing.
I mean, for you to hook up with Peter Hamill, he was like a writing machine. He was like
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was a blessing.
spitting out all this music. It's incredible.
It is. He's
Incredible.
an absolute talent. He's a genius. There's no doubt about it. And it's not just the Van der Graaf records. I think I played
No,
on, I don't know, 20 or 30 solo albums of his, you
right.
know, and you're getting to the point now where everything is being remastered. And it's kind of sad because I never get to hear the remasters. And
Oh, they don't
especially now
send you.
I've
They
got,
don't.
they
Do
don't,
they?
nobody sends me anything. And, you know, I
Oh,
really
man.
like to hear it with my hearing aids.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't send you like the remaster.
They don't
That's too
because
bad.
they don't. They just don't because record companies are doing this in their sleep,
Yeah, of course.
churning out stuff in their sleep.
Yep.
How many things do they sit up? They get up in the morning, think, "Oh, I've got another 20 I could
Yep. And nobody
re-release."
gets a penny, right? They just put it
Nobody
out.
gets the damn thing, and they remaster it. Somebody sits in a room, whether they actually care about it or not, I do not know. I mean,
Well, that's the
hopefully,
thing.
hopefully they do.
Right. I would
Or
hope.
it's very possible, Dennis, they press a button called AI,
Hmm.
but
Oh,
literally
yeah. You said that. That's right.
it says, I can do a better job than that.
Right.
I really do think that 90% of stuff is being turned out by machines, you know?
I hear it. It's terrible. Some of the crap that people put out these days. I hope you're not out there making this, but that's my opinion. You could tell right away it's just garbage. But then
Well,
there's really good bands that you have to find. I didn't know anything about your daughter's music till I met you, and I said, "Wow, this is great stuff." And other people's music. So there is still people making good music out there, but you just have to find it these days.
yeah, but I think the trouble is we're being swamped.
Right.
You
So
know,
that's what it is.
we are being swamped by Taylor Swift or Coldplay.
Right.
They are really big businesses are
Yep.
just swamping everything. So the time and the place that we were talking about at the very beginning of this conversation,
Right.
where music was like wildflowers, it was new music, there was no media.
Right. That's true.
It was a single record. It was an equipment that you had to plug in and
Yep.
fiddle, and then you could get, oh, listen to my new speakers. And it was like a cottage industry, wasn't it? Little
Yep.
record companies. There were some big record companies, but it was just as easy for a small record company to make things. And there were festivals.
That you could play, right.
Yeah, there were
Uh,
There were gigs. Every single town had half a dozen gigs. There were bands going on and on and on and on. And I mean, there
well,
still are. I
the
mean,
problem, people like to sit home now, and just stream a movie, but there's people that still go out, but there's less opportunities. There's less places. That's the problem. But still the same thing. To sell your records, you have to play live, it seems. That's the only way.
I think that's the only way.
Yeah.
When I go to a gig, I take a box of stuff, and I always
Yes.
sell. But I have quite a big extended family, right? And I make these records. These aren't the only records. There's a dozen that
I'm
I'm
sure.
involved in. At any one time, I make these records, and I get boxes, and I say to my relatives or family friends and things like that, "Do you want one?"
Yeah.
Why not? Oh,
Right.
Spotify.
Yeah. Ugh.
Nobody. What happened to that fantastic sound system? Sold it.
Ugh.
I've got a smart speaker.
Right. Or
I
my
mean,
phone. Right.
I've got my phone.
Right. There you go. Yep.
This is the
It's true.
tragedy. I've
It
got my
is.
phone. I've got my what do they call AirPods?
Earplug. Right. Right.
Well, I've got my hearing aid, but I can hear everything in my hearing, which is great because
Yeah.
this is a Bluetooth system.
Oh, is okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's cost a lot of money, but it's a Bluetooth system. So, and I was going to do the hard sell on it, but what it does is also it's got loads of modes. So,
So you could.
these are all the different. I don't know if you can see all that. No, you can't. Never mind.
That's all
It's
right.
got
But we could. I
it's got
understand. It
all
has
the modes
modes.
to program it to be listen to a live gig, for playing live,
Oh,
for playing
okay.
on headphones. So I play on headphones. I don't have to take them off. No
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
no problem. Um,
That's
I can
fantastic.
take them out, put them in, take them out. Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
Basically, I've got speakers in my head now.
Well, thank God, because you have without what we need your plane still out there. So
Well, I do love playing, but it's it's hard. It's harder and harder because the harness, the instruments become very heavy,
okay.
very heavy.
Right.
All my bones and joints and I have arthritis.
Oh boy. I understand that. It's not fun. I know. It's
Evil. It's an
oh,
evil thing because you know this thing here is my favorite saxophone. It's number 2 in the world. Number 1 is in Tokyo in the
really?
factory. Number 2, you can't see it somewhere. It's got number 2 on it. Here we are. Number 2, you won't see it, but it's
In the
there.
factory. Wow. Holy
Number
smoke.
1's in the factory, 2's in my hands. I can play it, but it absurd that
Oh, okay.
it
Oh
hurts.
boy, sorry.
It hurts.
Yeah,
That position, it
it's
hurts now.
hard.
So it's funny, but my brother gave me an alto saxophone that was broken, right? And I thought, oh, well, I want the tenor, I want the soprano, I want the sopranino.
Right.
What's my first choice now? Where I started. It's very
Oh, there you
comfortable.
go. Back
It's
to that.
comfortable.
Yeah. Looks it.
It's for old men. Get an alto. Get an alto.
That's funny.
It
Well,
is fun.
yeah. Well, David, this has been such a treat talking to you. I mean, you're something special.
Uh,
You are. Listening to you, all the stories and all the great music you're still doing. It's
oh,
you're
can I do a
really
little plug? Little plug.
go ahead more.
Okay, a little plug. A little plug. I said that I've got 3 things on my desktop.
Right.
Right. One is a Californian guy from Spirits Burning called Don Falcone. Really interesting Californian composer, writer, and he's just written a book, incidentally, about all of his Spirits Burning activities. I love his music.
Okay.
I do half a dozen tracks for him a year. Some really, really lovely music. Just so
Hmm.
different, you know. That's I'm sending him a track when we finish. I've got a new piece by Judge Smith, the guy I met on that barge 61 years ago.
Amazing.
He's just written a piece called The Overstair, and it's about all of those people who are now getting it in the neck, the people
Hmm.
who have to come to another country to survive. And of course, people
Wow.
flooding into England,
Right, right.
Britain all the
Hmm.
time from Europe and Far East countries, always east to
Interesting.
west, east to west. And the same, obviously, in America. I don't want to
Right.
get commercial, but you have problems from the south, don't you? Think people
Yep.
coming from the south.
Yep. Right.
We have people coming from the east. But they're, they're 9 times out of 10 or 99% of really okay. Okay, there's always odd people, but
Yep.
this is a beautiful piece of music where Dory is the overstair.
Hmm.
She has the voice, she's coming here to clean toilets. She's coming here to pick vegetables. But in fact, she's a head teacher of a school,
Oh, wow.
in Afghanistan or something like that. She can't work.
Hmm.
There aren't schools anymore. These are really people who've finished. There's nothing they can do.
Hmm.
They have to escape. So they come. Anyway, that's an opera about that. It's
Okay.
very touching, very poignant. Dory's Judge Smith is the narrator. He tells the story. It's for organ and saxophone. So it's very Van der Graaf, which is
Oh,
where
okay.
Judge was in Van der Graaf, you see.
Right.
Judge was in the first Van der Graaf. So it's almost like a Van der Graaf record. It's
Hmm.
fantastic. So I've got that. I've got Don Falcone in California. We've got the Overstair. And
Hmm.
the thing that I'm most happy about, well, I'm happy about them all, but there's a very, very famous baritone singer,
Hmm.
an opera singer who has won loads of awards and toured America, the whole world. He's called Sir Thomas Allen. And I've written 4 songs with a brilliant poet, 4 new pieces. And
That's amazing.
we're just finishing that at the moment. The bass player's adding some parts now. The guy from Capricus, funnily enough, he's a lovely bass player. So he's putting the bass on the last track, hopefully today or tomorrow. And we'll have that suite finished. But friends of mine have listened to the suite and said, this singer, right, is 80 years old, top of the range singer. There's no finer. He said these records, they've got that gravitas of Johnny Cash's last records.
Oh my God! Wow,
great.
I got to hear this.
Oh, you will, but I can't let you have it until it's finished.
Okay.
Because I'm going to get my son to mix this because it needs somebody really skillful to mix it. I mean, the guys I work with are all skillful. No, don't get me, but I want somebody who's Jake does classical music. He's a classical singer. Jake does jazz. I've got a jazz musician on it. I've got a prog rock bass player. I've got me, and I've got Dory on it. I've got this singer. So it's all these different words colliding together for this music, and they're incredibly beautiful poems.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just haunting. I mean, I've been working on it for months, a bit like I was on this.
That beautiful record.
Yeah, but you never, it's not quite right. It's not quite, you keep on and on fiddling with it. It's sometimes a bit stupid, but you finish. You just, I want to do a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I always do, but eventually you just got to say it's done and you move on. What else can you do? Sometimes you work too hard on something and it's never ends.
You can lose the spark. I know you can. You can lose the spark, but if you're collaborating with people, which I am on this project, each new person brings new life.
That's true. I agree.
Well, the saxes aren't quite right now. But the voice never changes because, we got this guy. We put him in a fantastic studio. It was really technically interesting because this guy, right, has never worn a pair of headphones.
Really? That's interesting.
I said, what about click tracks? I heard a click track once. I hate them.
Yeah.
So if you're an opera singer, you stand on the stage and sing, and people run around and record you, don't they? But you never see a microphone. You never see one. You need a microphone. So we managed to get this guy at 80 recorded.
That's interesting.
Against all technology because he resisted. I had a meeting with it. Well, I won't wear headphones. I won't do that. I won't do that. I wore headphones once.
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
And you've heard it. Perfect Day. Do you remember the collaboration version of A Perfect Day?
Oh yeah.
The BBC did one where every big pop star did a line. One of those lines is by Sir Thomas Allen, and it was his first take. He said, "What do you want me to sing? What do you want me to sing?" He said, "Oh, give me a line from It's a Perfect Day. It's just a perfect day." Oh, well, no, it's a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you. And he walks away. No, you got to do it again. But you got it right. I got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, David, we'll have to talk again sometime when this is done. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Talking to you.
And I'll have
drummer.
Yes, drummer. Well, I played in a post-punk band in New York in the early 80s, a band called Liquid, and it was very original music. And then I've also have a little studio here where I also play keyboards and I put out records myself. I don't sell many of them, but I don't care. I just keep putting it out and having fun with it at this point, but it's been a labor of love here too.
But you enjoy talking to people, which is an important thing. People like to watch these interviews, and
I know. I think this is an important series. I mean, I've done over 100 interviews, and everybody's had a good story, and everybody, hopefully someday people will find these and say, "Wow, what was this? Who was this gentleman?" I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure they want to hear your story. I mean, I was
Well,
so excited. I was really excited to talk to you today because I've been such a fan of the Van der Graaf music, especially.
well, thank you for inviting me. And
Oh, sure, David.
I saw
Anytime.
you talking to Theo Travers, and I thought that's interesting. I'll talk to this
Yeah. Oh,
guy.
that's great. Yeah, and I spoke to Judge Smith too. That was a good interview.
I know. You've got the right people.
Yeah, I'm not limiting myself to just prog either. I'm talking to all types of people in music. I don't want to just limit it to be like the prog guy, because I want to speak to creative people.
Can I make a recommendation? Because
Sure.
you did say to me Italy, and I've actually played for about 30 different Italian bands. Now that is staggering, but if you imagine the 60 odd years I've been doing this, it's not that surprising. One year I did 2012, 2013, I did 6 different tours with I played with 6 different Italian bands.
Oh my gosh.
Literally, I was going from playing in the north, taking a train with in the north with one band, taking a train and playing another half dozen concerts in the south with another band, and then going off with somebody else to do a festival. And but there's some really good Italian musicians. I mean,
Well, send me some names, and I'll
I
and
would recommend you talk to Roberto Vitelli, the guy from Ellesmere. If you find Ellesmere, this music is really good.
I'm gonna check it out.
Ellesmere.
Okay.
Ellesmere. I mean, it's a funny name for an Italian band.
It is.
Extremely odd, but
If you
because
want,
it's
if
a
if
city.
you could send me some names of people
Okay,
that I should speak to, I better just email it to me or
I will. I'm going to do that because I absolutely adore Italian prog. It's the most interesting prog for
mm,
me,
it
and
is.
it's so alive in Italy. I
It's
play these festivals, and they're all free. I mean, it's just maybe a little bit suspicious, but who's put a festival on? The mayor.
the
How old is
mayor,
the
of course.
The mayor. The mayor is the same age as me. He has all the money.
Yeah, that's it.
He likes Bernard. He likes David Jackson. He likes Italian
Yeah, that's
prog.
it.
It's for everybody, per tutti.
Come on,
Exactly.
party time,
Come
right?
on, it's free.
That's
And
great.
you go to these festivals, and I've played some of my repertoire with a full symphony orchestra in the south
Wow.
of Italy,
Oh,
right?
that must have been amazing.
And I've sat next to these musicians and talked to them in Italian, and they're Russian.
Oh, that's something. Oh, that's amazing.
They're Russian symphony
Ah,
orchestra playing Italian and British prog
oh my
in
gosh.
the south of Italy.
Go
It's
figure.
surreal, and it's all
So,
free. But I
oh,
get paid. I get paid. Yeah.
that's the main thing, right?